Hello and welcome. This is Matthias 76. Together we are decoding the deception, and together today we're going to do something a little bit different in our study on Revelation. I realized that we need to go back and take a look at some of the key players, characters, if you will, that have come up, because we're ready in the progression through Revelation to go into the great prostitute, which I'll say again, because it's huge. It gets 2 full chapters, 2+ chapters on the great prostitute. Do you think that matters? We're going to cover 2 chapters today, and it covers a number of major players in the end times, this figurative language. But as I got ready to go into giving the identity and looking at and doing best we can to sort out who is the great prostitute, what does that image, that picture language represent, I thought and was encouraged by my creative consultant that I need to go back and just do a review on these other major characters who are presented to us in figurative language. So that is what we are going to do today, and they're going to do it in 2 parts. So this will be part 1 of this video series on the cast of characters. So today we look at Revelation, the cast of characters, and just for fun, I call it an end times production. So this is a high-level look at 2 chapters, about which I did 9 videos thus far, but 2 chapters. And the purpose is, like I said, just to give a review of who these players are, because I study this all the time. It is what I do, and it's easy to get things confused. I have to go back for myself and look at who is that? How does that play out? What does that mean? Now, these characters that we're going to look at, and this goes for all of the book of Revelation and all the events described, those that have taken place, those that are taking place, and those that yet are to take place. These are fearsome and mighty players at work. And it's easy to feel small and insignificant, vulnerable, and perhaps even hopeless. And that is why it is of paramount importance to remember the overarching theme of the book of Revelation, and that is Jesus always wins. Whatever the opposition, whatever forces may arise, no matter how dark the day may seem, Jesus always wins. And in this image that's on the screen now, we see Christ riding forth on that white horse, and the bow in his hand, and the quiver on his back, and the crown on his head. And behind him is his host. And we are there because the truth is Jesus always wins. And because Jesus always wins, we too are victorious. In him, we are more than conquerors. So first, today we're going to look at Revelation 12, which is about the woman and the dragon. Interestingly, the woman is the one that is most often neglected in our understanding of what goes on and is described in the book of Revelation. So the woman, and I'll just read the passage from Revelation 12, 1 and 2. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. Again, this is high level, so I'll keep it short. The woman is the church. The woman is Old Testament Israel in expectation of the coming of the promised Messiah. And the way this is described, and just a note, I will, at the end of each section of the book, put the link, the thumbnail for the video I did on this, and the link is in the description below for all those videos. So if you're curious and want to go deeper, and of course I encourage you to do so, you can just click down below and it will take you there. So this is just high level. You want more detail, watch the in-depth video. But the way the woman is described, it is described in astronomical terms. The Virgin, Virgo, in the sky, positioned so that the moon is at her feet and the sun is right in the middle of her, and Jupiter, the king's planet, is right at her head, 12 stars. That is the church. And that happened in one 80-minute window at one point in time in all the history of the world in 3 BC. On September 11th, 3 BC, the date of the birth of Christ. Very good possibility of that being exactly when it was when you look at all this information. But she gave birth. It is a great sign. And notice that it says great. This is a great sign. And isn't it odd that this is the character that gets neglected most? This is a great sign. It is the culmination of all God's working through all the Old Testament, all of history. It is that which everything is about. And another sign, not a great sign, another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head 7 diadems. It becomes all the more clear later. This is Satan. This is the serpent, the dragon, the deceiver, all of those things. Why 7 heads? Why 7 heads? Who is he trying to be? Who is it he seeks to displace? But things aren't right. Things aren't right. They're 7 heads, but they're 10 horns. And he's got crowns on his head, and they are diadems claiming divine authority. There are crowns on his head. This is Satan. This is Satan. And what is it Satan does? We'll get to that, but this is the great sign that appeared in heaven, the dragon and the woman. That's the thumbnail for that video, link in the description below. His tail, verse 4 of chapter 12, swept down 1/3 of the stars from heaven and cast them to the earth. This is the passage when you're trying searching in your brain, where is it that it tells us that 1/3 of the angels, those B'nai Elohim, those divine entities, going to be doing a video on that too. Long promised, I'm going to come through. Where is it? It says 1/3 of them fell right here. Revelation 12:4 says that 1/3 of them fell. He cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. Powerful image there on the screen. See that dragon? Think Herod the Great, who sought to kill that child with such resolve that trying to cast a net from which that King of Kings could not escape, Herod killed all the children in Bethlehem. If that isn't demonic, then I don't know what is. The dragon wanted, think of it from his perspective, from Satan's perspective, God became vulnerable. God made himself vulnerable. I can get him, is what he was thinking. He's a man. He's a baby in arms. I can get him. She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. Think of all of the prophetic references that fit into that. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne, and he was safe. Now, I'm going to click back. She gave birth to a male child. And in this narrative, the only thing it says about Jesus is in this verse. She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne. It doesn't go into the details of the life of Christ, John had already written a book about that called the Gospel of John. So had Matthew, so had Mark, so had Luke. That's not the point of this narrative here in Revelation 12. It is about the woman, the church, and the dragon, and the interplay between them. Revelation 12:6, and the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God in which she is to be nourished for 1,260 days. We'll cover in a little bit of detail in a few moments the 1,260 days. The woman went into the wilderness. What is the symbolism there? What is represented by that? The woman is the church. The woman is all of us believers, the bride of Christ. She's out in the wilderness. Who goes out in the wilderness? People who aren't important. From the world's perspective, people who aren't important go out into the wilderness. Where do you find the important people? Where are the rulers? Where are the wealthy? Where are the powerful? Where are those who are looked up to and admired by all? They're in the city, which in the book of Revelation, when talking about the fallen world, isn't ever a positive thing. It's called the Great City, and it's busted up in three parts, and that's in the Great City, Rome, Babylon, Sodom, Egypt, where the two prophets were killed and laid in the streets for 3.5 days, which interestingly is the same as 3.5 years, 3.5 days, 3.5, which is related to 1,260. Again, we'll cover that briefly. There's the thumbnail for this video, Revelation 12, 4-6, and the dragon stood before the woman. And throughout these videos that I do with a graphic presentation, use a lot of different images. We're not told, other than the 7 heads and 10 horns, and with many of these things, we're not told exactly what they look like. And some of the descriptions almost seem, how do you make that all come together and work? Thankfully, we have some really creative, artistic people who are able to make representations of that, but especially when it comes to describing the beast from the sea, it is a challenge to do that. So I use many different pictures to try to give as much context to what they might have looked like to John as possible. So we advance in the narrative. Revelation 12, 7 and 8. This is Jesus was born. The woman's out in the wilderness. Jesus was born. He ascended up into heaven, did all his ministry, ascended up into heaven. He was victorious. Before he ascended into heaven, he descended into the lower parts of the earth and proclaimed his victory there. Revelation 12, 7 and 8. Now war arose in heaven. Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. One verse. Spend some time imagining what that might have looked like. It is a mind bender. And the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. Satan, the title Satan, it is a title. It is Ha-Satan. Ha is direct article, the Satan, the accuser. We see him doing that with Job. Couldn't find anything to accuse him of, so he tried to create some things. He would come before God as well. He's kicked out. He has no place. Why? Because Jesus took your sin and paid the price. You're set free from the consequences of that sin. God has no interest in hearing the proclamations of the prosecution, which is the Satan, the accuser. So he is cast out, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any room for them in heaven. Again, more detail on all of this in the videos. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. This verse is very important in all of Scripture. Revelation 12:9, it is the verse that connects the serpent, Genesis 3, the devil, Satan, and describes him as the deceiver of the whole world. What's the name of this channel? Decoding the Deception. This verse is very key in understanding who Satan is and the different things that he does. He was thrown down to the earth. There's another picture of him being thrown down to the earth. Therefore, verse 12, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Victory in heaven. An awesome, amazing thing. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. So many things that we could talk about here, but he's cast down to earth. He's here. That's important for our understanding of the struggle in which we are engaged. But if you want the key takeaway, thing to file away in your mind under Satan, devil, deceiver, etc., is he knows his time is short. He knows his time is short, and he knows he's defeated. But he knows his time is short, and it is pure hate, animus, vitriol. He just wants to undo as much as he can, and so he attacks. He hates everything God loves, and so he is on the attack. And because he is our adversary, and because he does prowl about like a roaring lion, then we need to be sober-minded and vigilant. Thumbnail for that video here. I really love this graphic, and I've used it a number of times. We've got Michael throwing him down. Here it shows him as a lion, which ties in with the verse I just referenced, 1 Peter 5:8, your adversary, the devil, prowls about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he might devour. Link to that video is below. But one more verse that we must consider as we look at all this. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. You see the dragon here, and the woman's just this little thing there floating next to it. He's got the whole earth under his control, and he is going to pursue the woman, the church, the believers. He wants to undo them. And the fact that he had been defeated just raised his ire to an entirely new level. It was through the church that the one who defeated him, which was exactly what was promised in Genesis 3:15. It was through the church, through the body of believers. And some of you are going to say, quit saying church. It was Israel. Israel was the Old Testament church, just for the sake of simplicity. Israel was the Old Testament body of believers. We are the continuation and fulfillment of that going forward. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, so that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness to the place where she is to be nourished for a time, times, and half a time. Satan is after her. She's given 2 wings so that she might fly away from him. Wings of an eagle. The Old Testament talks about us being borne up on God's wings like an eagle. The church is preserved, the church is protected, the church is saved through her God who is the Almighty. And for how long is she given these wings? To a place where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time. We have to look for cohesive, coherent ways to understand this terminology, these numbers. And here we have a graphic. This is from the video I did on numbers in the book of Revelation. And I'm going to show you where you can find that. if you come right here to my Revelation page, link in the description below. Do you get tired of hearing me say that? I'm sorry. Link in the description below. Scroll down, and you're going to see right here, there's the playlist, but then I've got study resources, okay? Here is the Bible Deep Dive, the video on proper biblical interpretation, figurative language, and numbers in Revelation. And just to make it easy, quick reference, you can come here and see 3, 4, 7, 10, these numbers that are so important. And here's 3.5. We'll come back to that. I've also got a video on themes and the outline of the book, and then some other helpful graphics that I put out there because I go and look at these things for myself. I created the graphics. I created the videos. I go and look at them myself. There's just all kinds of stuff going on here to keep track of. But let's talk about the number 3.5. 3.5 and all the permutations of that number always represent evil opposition to the church. And it represents that evil opposition in the time of the church. And the time of the church is from the moment Jesus Christ ascended into heaven, went up in the clouds, and the angel said, "Why are you standing here looking? Why do you stand here looking? This same Jesus who was taken from you into heaven will so come in like manner as you saw him go into heaven." Acts 1:11. That is the period of the church when it's stated positively about God's good working in that time. It's 1,000 years. From the position of opposition, it's 3.5. That number and all the variants of it, which is what? 1/2 of 7. 3.5 years, which is never used. 3.5 days is 3.5 years. Time, times, and half a time. Time is 1 year. Times is 2 years. Half a time is half a year. Time, times, and half a time. 42 months, also used. 1,260 days, also used as 1,230 days, interestingly, in the book of Daniel. I believe it's chapter 11. But anyway, that is the number of evil opposition to the church. So the whole time that Satan is warring against the church, the entire time that is going on, for that, God has given the church 2 wings as of an eagle so that she can be carried away to safety. And what does Satan do? The serpent, verse 15, poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with a flood. But the earth came to the help of the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth. Don't want to be too lengthy on all this stuff. Immediately after ascension, Satan went to work. He had the disciples arrested twice, and then the persecution of Paul arose, and the church was scattered everywhere. He didn't realize that going on was how they were spread out everywhere. He's pouring out this flood of destruction after them. But because they had to scatter throughout all the known world, that's what the book of Acts is about, just following Peter and Paul. Because of that, the church was saved. It's like the earth itself swallowed up that flood of destruction that Satan was trying to work against them. And then the last verse of this chapter, and we're going to end right after this, and then we'll come back with the next chapter, chapter 13, with the 2 beasts. But the last verse sets the stage. He wants to destroy. He's ravenous. He seeks to destroy the church. And how does the chapter end? Verse 17, then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. That's us. I couldn't take out the collective whole. I'll go after the individual pieces. And he stood on the sand of the sea. That is where we're left at the end of chapter 12. He's standing on the sand of the sea, ready for what is to come, summoning forth his henchmen. And that is where we will go next. the thumbnail for that video, The Dragon Became Furious. It's on the screen, link in the description below. Thank you for watching. Pray that this teaching, this series on Revelation is a blessing to you, and I invite you, go down below, smash that thumbs up button. That's how you can let other people know that this video is worth watching. Also, pray for us. Pray for what we do, the ministry we are seeking to carry out here. Invite you, if you have not yet, to subscribe. And when you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you're made aware when we put out a new video. Share this video with someone else. You've got friends who want to know about this very topic. Put this on your social media feed, email it to a friend. And finally, drop by to our resource center at decodingthedeception.com. Go to our Revelation page. Check out all the information we have there for you. This is Matthias 76. Together, we are decoding the deception. God bless and have a great day.